with the first pick in the NFL draft.
Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Draft Show. We are back again with our top 10 for the 2026 draft, and we are covering the O-line guys, the big guys up front this week. A lot of guys to go through. We've put them all as one category. So we've got some guards, some centers, some right tackles, left tackles, all in there. So if there's some guys missing off the list that you feel like you should have been in there, it's because we've tried to get a little bit of everything in there in what we've rated, and maybe some of the tackles that might go higher in the draft we haven't covered. So there might be some honorable mentions later on. I'm sure, Adam, you've covered a lot of the O-line already. How do you feel about the O-line class this year?
I actually think they look pretty good. I think we should be quite excited for some of these O-line guys. There's some decent talent here, which I think is. I think you're going to hear sort of top 50 a lot. I think that's probably where the majority of these are going to go. That doesn't mean that they're all going to be like at the top of the first round or they're all going to be like 40 to 50. But I think that they are going to sort of be scattered around in the top 50. These 10 guys that we talk about, and I think there might even be more that go in the top 50 that we don't talk about as well. So I think there are some exciting guys to look at. I think the O-line class in the last few years has been pretty decent, and it feels like it's kind of quite a steady conveyor belt through the college, that the O-line play seems to be reasonably all right. It's just a matter of finding the really good ones. But yeah, there's some exciting prospects in here, and should be interesting to see how they do.
I've got a question for you. As I've been watching all of these guys and seeing them play and know what they've done for their teams, I've kind of gone, oh yeah, he's a good right tackle, he's a good left tackle, he's played really well there. And I've made this list, and then as I'm going through them and watching the tape and doing the practices and getting some more info on them, I'm hearing a lot that the majority of the guys that I've watched playing right tackle and left tackle, and now the pros are saying he's probably going to be a guard. So there's a lot of this now where there's no real sort of, yet he's the top, left tackle, right tackle in college. So that's what he's going to be in the NFL. It seems like even these top guys that we're going to talk about, there's a lot of conversation. They're actually going to be they're going to be guards when they get to the NFL. How do you feel about that, knowing their whole career they played at tackle, they get to the elite level, and apparently they're not good enough to play there anymore, and they move inside?
I think that's what happens when it comes to the O-line guys. It's quite a common thing, and it has been in the last few years. Yeah, you're going to hear that a lot as well in this show. There's a lot of guys that have played tackle, and it does feel like chances are they are going to be kicked inside and play guard. It's not. Look, I mean, I don't look at it as a negative at all. I think if anything, it's actually a positive, because they've got that, or they've had that time where they played at tackle. But it does mean if they can come in and play at guard as well, then it means you can spread them across pretty much anywhere apart from center. But then even center, I mean, look, I know that you've always come out and said that there are certain positions that you feel that you just generally know more about and seem to hit on, and then there are certain positions where I'm the same, but they're just different to your ones. We've always said when it comes to O-line guys, for whatever reason, don't ask me why, I'm just good at finding the big guys. Who knew? So I just seem to be able to do it. But I mean, Graham Barton was one that I said a lot about and you weren't overly keen on. And the reason that Graham Barton has become a success in the NFL is because he has literally been able to play across the whole line. He's actually played snaps in the NFL at center. That's this guy who was, predominantly a guard, but he did play tackle as well in college. And it just goes to show, I think it's such a positive for these guys that if they can do that and they can move across, and I think the NFL teams like that. They like to have the flexibility with these guys to be able to move them anywhere across the O-line, because unfortunately, when guys of this size are going up against other guys of this size, a lot of the time injuries occur. So it's important that they can.
when that's translated into draft value, do you feel like that drops their value slightly, knowing that they might be a guard going forward and they're not going to be the starting left tackle? Do you think that decreases their value slightly when it comes to the first round, or do you?
Yeah, I think you're probably right. It does feel like, look, I mean, Joel, obviously last year we all knew he was going to be left tackle. He was really good in college. And because of that, because he was kind of like a standout and everyone was kind of coming out going, yes, he is the left tackle. He's the one that you want to get on your team. It did kind of feel like he was the first one off the board because of that. And so I think that you do get that. I think there probably is an element of it's weird because you would think that the flexibility would mean that they would, be worth more to teams. But I do think the idea of having the standout in that really difficult position to be able to cover, I think that does mean quite a lot. But I mean, Joel, yeah, okay, he's obviously what we've seen, really good tackle, and will probably do that for the rest of his life. But realistically, if he had to, he could play guard. So it's like, he could do it as well. So I think really it probably does give them that little bit extra edge, probably pushes them up a little bit more in when it comes to draft stock. But I think when you look at these guys, and I feel like this was kind of how it was last year and has been for a few years, these are all kind of, like I say, the worst ones that we'll talk about today are going to be top 50, I think. So it's like they're not like going to get devalued to like a day 3 pick. It's just that I think there are certain guys that just stand out above the rest, and that happens every year.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. Let's take a look and see who we've got in at number 10. At number 10, we have Jake Slaughter from the Florida Gators, 23 years old, 6'5", 330 pounds. He allowed 4 pressures, one sack on 422 passing snaps. He's predominantly a center, which is why I've got him in at number 10 on the list. I believe he is the best center in this draft class. He was a Remington Trophy finalist. He was second team All-America. He's a 2-time captain for the Gators. A Gators team that for me had the toughest schedule probably of the SEC last year. Adam, what are your thoughts? Do you agree with me that he's the best center in this draft class?
Yeah, I think he's the best centre, and he's probably the best centre by quite a long way, actually. I think he's got some really interesting attributes about him. I think that his anchor is great, especially in pass protection. He does really well. He's got a high IQ, which I think is really important for a centre, because you need to be able to communicate well. And I think he processes a lot of things really quickly and adjusts to them, which is why he's done well in the college game at centre. Against the run game, I think he's got real power behind him, and he really sort of like finishes his blocks really well when he does that. So I think that's really important for him, and something that sometimes does get overlooked a little bit, but it is really important. Played every game over the last 2 seasons. He hasn't had any injuries. He's looked good when he's done it as well. So I think he's got a lot of positives about him. Look, I know I was saying like top 50 for all of these guys. I think the problem, obviously, with him being a centre, only played a centre, I think there's a very strong chance that he probably doesn't have the flexibility to move out. He will be a centre when he goes into the NFL. And so obviously that kind of pushes him down the board a little bit, because, you don't need as many centres as you do guards and tackles. So I think that's something that is going to knock him down. I think it would help if he maybe got a little bit bigger. He's only 303 pounds. That kind of like needs to increase a little bit, and I think that'll help if he can do that. Sometimes he's a bit aggressive. He lunges in a little bit, but nothing significant. I think he's got a lot of good things going for him, and like I say, I think he's the best centre that you can go out and get. think he's probably a round 3 guy myself. I think that's probably what we're looking at with him. But yeah, he's got a lot of good things going for him, and I think a bit of coaching, bit of maybe stopping him from lunging too much, like sometimes his footwork. He needs to stay a bit patient, right? He gets almost too excited, too aggressive, I suppose. Maybe if that can sort of like come out of him a little bit, then I think he's got a good chance of being a starter.
Yeah, I know you said there that you only have one centre, so you don't need as many. But it's a conversation we had in the off season and free agency that if you get this position right, then the relationship that they have with the quarterback, that's where it all starts. I feel like this is what this guy's good at. Which I said he's a 2-time captain at Florida, and I feel like that really shows that you can build a relationship with the quarterback and it be like a cornerstone of an offensive line and really start it off. We've had a lot of older centers that have been in the league for 10 plus years now that are coming to the end of their career. So I think there might be a bit more value in him than there has been in previous years with some of the names that we've lost in the NFL at center. So I think that is a good spot for him. And he's got some really good tape against some really, really big teams. I know the Georgia, Texas, and Ole Miss. If you go back and watch those games, you'll see why he's so highly rated. Exceptional pass protection and good in the run game as well. So I'm going to call him a plug-and-play guy for the NFL. I think he can start day one. As you said, he's durable, not missed any games. Plug and play, definitely an NFL starter for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he'll do well. Whoever picks him up, he'll have a decent, like I say, a bit of coaching. I think he'll have a decent career.
Yeah, definitely. In at number 9, we have got Emmanuel Pregnon from the Oregon Ducks. I've got him at 24 years old, 6'4", 313 pounds. He's allowed 4 pressures, 0 sacks on 382 passing snaps. An interior guy. This is he's definitely going to be playing a guard. That's where he's played at Oregon. But I feel like across that Oregon O-line, which has been fantastic all year, he's played left guard. He's probably been the best of a very good O-line. So there's a lot to be excited about this guy if you are looking for a left guard, which I believe is, in my eyes, a very, very important position in terms of if you've got your left tackle, I'd be looking for a left guard to match next to them.
Yeah, I think this guy's really good. Got a really good chance of being able to do something. I think that he has really good strength. Lower body strength is great. His anchor is really, really strong. Really nice hand placement. I think it's strong whenever anyone sort of comes to him. It's sort of his hands sort of stun the defender's back, and I think that that's a really good attribute that he's got with great grip strength. Like you said, he didn't allow a sack at all in 24. Really nice sort of like awareness and positioning and understanding what's going on in the game. I think that's something that he clearly shows. Look, I wouldn't. He's never going to be a tackle. That's not what he is. It will probably push him down a little bit on draft board, but he's going to be a very good guard. And actually, I think you'd have to coach him up a little bit. But I think if you really needed someone to fill in at centre, I think that he could do it. I think that he has that ability about him where he's actually clever enough to be able to do that and play in that position. This is kind of like I was saying about Graham Barton. This is kind of the guy who reminds me a little bit of him, where I think that he is definitely going to play more inside. He is going to be more of a guard rather than a tackle, and to me, it looks like he's got a lot of positives about him. Obviously, that is also a bit of a negative because, that, like I say, it will bring his draft stock down because he is a guard. He does lean forward a bit. His 40-yard dash at the combine was a bit slow. It wasn't great, but that's when you're comparing him against tackles rather than guards. So I think that's partly why. Sometimes he can look a little bit stiff, but I just feel like he's very, very good at what he does. And I think that that's something that I think people need to understand, that he is very much, this is the guy, he does this, he does it very, very well, and any team would be lucky to have him, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, interesting thing for him as well that separates him from the other guys that are on this list. He had an 88.1 grade on pass blocking, and he had an 85.8 grade on run blocking. So he's the only guy in this class that has over 85% in both grades. Lots of people have got 80s in one and not the other. He's got it in both. So he's great at pass blocking and run blocking. Great length, great strength, great power. I just feel like he fits the NFL the way he is. You talked about his combine having a slow 40, but I think at that position, it doesn't overly matter too much. But when you do look at his combine and see his vertical and his broad, they were really, really good in the high percentiles of people at his position. So I think they're the ones I'm going to take away from him, because they fit the position. You know, you can use them in terms of evaluating a guard if they're good at those two things. So yeah, really, really interesting prospect. Got some really good physical movement skills and things. So yeah, solid left guard. Can you see him sneaking into the first round, or do you think positionally might drop out of that?
I think because of the position, he will drop into round 2. The first round feels a bit expensive for him, but I think I wouldn't be against it if someone sort of was at the back of the first sort of thing, right? You know, right at the very end. I wouldn't be against it. I think it's unlikely though. I think you'd have to have a lot of these O-line guys go in the first round before he does, because I think, like I said, we're going to talk about quite a few tackles that have the possibility of being able to move into guard. I think teams would rather have that rather than this guy, where it's literally like he is the guard and that's kind of all it is. So I think that's the reason he'll drop into round 2.
Yeah, there's another name on this board that's probably going to be talked about a bit more, but I was just thinking at 22, if he's gone, would the Chargers be interested in a guy like this, who I feel like left guard would be perfect for the Chargers if they were looking. So
yeah, stick him next to Alt, they'll probably do pretty well.
Right, in at number 8, we have Max Iheanacho. A bit of background on this guy. Well, I've got him in at 22 years old. I said to you earlier today when I was trying to find his age out, I've got any range from 22 to 25 for this guy. It doesn't seem like anyone can give me a definitive answer. 22 seems to be where we're leaning. 6'6", 321 pounds. He allowed 14 pressures, no sacks on 484 passing snaps. Moved to America at 13 years old from Nigeria. When he lived in Nigeria, he was predominantly played football or soccer for American listeners. And then when he moved to America, he then played basketball because that's the high school that he went to only had a basketball school. So when he moved up to the college level, would be the first time ever that he played any form of American football. He went to a lower JCO school where he tried out at left and right tackle, and then eventually settled on right tackle for where he's played. So there's a bit of background for him. So there's not playing any form of American football whatsoever until you get to college, Adam. And what we've seen from him, it's been impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty mental that he's even in this conversation, to be honest, given the limited time that he has played of about 4 years. I think what's important, and the multi-sport background that you highlighted, it shows because he has incredibly quick footwork, and it's really sort of like means that he can redirect himself when he's at the line of scrimmage really, really quickly. Got nice hip movement as well, arms that go on for days. You know, he's got pretty much everything that you would want from the sort of body type when it comes to an O-line guy. He's also like a nice weight as well. He's like at 321 pounds. It's kind of, that's the weight that you kind of, I think sort of like 315 to 325 is an ideal weight really for an O-line guy. And so he does that really well. What I saw when I was looking at him, I think what's really impressive is that he sort of seals the front side really well. He climbs up to linebackers and he cuts off any angles. And I think that that's something that is really, really good. He has really good power. And the one thing I noticed, I watched them when they played Texas Tech, and he was going up against David Bailey, and he was going up against Romello Height, and you know, these are two edge rushers that with David Bailey, you know, we're talking about first round really high, but even Romello Height, you know, we're talking about an edge rusher here who's going to be like day 2 pick probably. He did well against them. He didn't have any problems against these guys, and I think that's why he deserves to be thought of as someone who's going to do really, really well. Look, obviously he does come with a few issues. He's only played the game for 4 years, so it's not really a shocker that he comes with a few issues. He does just generally lack refinement. You know, that is something that it does need to improve on. His run blocking is not as good as his pass blocking, and sometimes his hands can get a bit high, so that's something that needs to change. But that's something that can be done through coaching. Sometimes he's prone to having a few penalties as well, and I think a lot of these things will just come in time. Now, I don't know. I'm going on the fact that he's 22. You know, that's what we know. If that's the case, then this guy has serious potential and a massive amount of upside. And I don't know if he will make the first round. I'm not sure. When I watched him and I was writing the notes for all these guys, my initial thought process was top 50 guy. And I think that's fair. But someone may fall in love with this guy and he could end up being a first round pick.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right there. He's still learning, isn't he? He's not the finished article. Like, he's only been playing that short period of time, and he didn't really show up on a lot of people's boards until the Senior Bowl, which is where he really hit the highlights and people started talking about him. You know, when he was at the Senior Bowl, he's against that higher level opponent as well that we're talking about. He was good at run and good at pass. So yeah, I think this guy's got the chance with some good coaching to be something special. And I think that's what's going to really boost him up boards. But it's all an if, really, isn't it? Which is why I've kept him on the reserve slightly away from some of the others that have been playing longer. They're more polished, they're more refined. So when they're learning at the next level, they're already above this guy. But his traits and what he could be, I think he could be something special in the NFL.
Yeah, I was trying to remember who we spoke about over the last couple of years. There's been a couple of these guys. There was, I think, Amarius Mims was one.
Mims was just an athletic freak, wasn't he? But he got injured and only played a year of proper snaps. But he'd been playing a lot of football for his life.
And then there was one, was it Cameron someone last year from Texas?
Yes, Cam Robinson. Was it Cam?
No,
he was the right tackle from.
But he was the same, wasn't
Williams?
he? There was the guy. Yeah, William. Yeah, I think that was it. Cameron and he was the same. I mean, not like look. The reason that this guy is
Raw talent.
This guy's raw because he just hasn't played. Whereas for the others, they've played, but they were just sort of like raw talent kind of thing. But it does kind of feel a slightly similar situation where it's like, it's going to take time with this guy. You're going to need to get him coached up. And, you know, if he gets on a decent team that's got a decent O-line coach, then the sky is the limit with this one.
Yeah, definitely. In at number 7, we have got Monroe Freeling from the Georgia Bulldogs, 21 years old, 6'7", 315 pounds, allowed 10 pressures, 3 sacks on 469 passing snaps. He was a backup all the way up until 2025. That's when he's really got his first chance to be a starter for the Bulldogs. And he's one of these guys that we're talking about before the show that is a natural left tackle, and probably one of the first guys we're going to talk about that I think is actually 100% a left tackle, maybe going into the NFL as well. He kind of fits NFL schemes of that as well. Only a small portion size of film for him, as I said, backup. Didn't start many games up until 2025, and really showed up at the combine again and really excelled himself up boards, Adam.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of what I'm going to say is basically what I've watched rather than anything else. From the tape, he clearly has great movement. You can see that in the tape that he's got great movement. He comes across as a really good pass protector. He's got a basketball background as well, which you can see that he has that about him, and his footwork is decent for that. Really nice, quick first step. Hands are really strong. And I feel like he sort of like he does finish with intent. You know, he does really want to sort of go through the player. His frame is decent. He's 6'6", 315. I mean, he could get. I think his lower half actually he could get a bit bigger, stronger in his lower half. But I feel like he's got quite a lot going for him. 34 3/4 inch arms, which is great for O-line. So we're not going to have any Will Campbell issues here. Yeah, he's got a lot of really good things about him, and I think that what was nice to see is when he did start and he was playing more often, I felt like he was improving all the time. You could tell that from the tape that he was getting better. The issues that I kind of have with him, I think he just sort of look. He's got limited experience as a starter. Obviously, that's going to be a problem. So he is kind of a bit of a prospect, I suppose, that you're looking at, and you're kind of just going, I think he can get to there, rather than you've got the evidence on. I do think he tends to lunge a little bit. It does cost him his length advantage. That is a bit of an issue. So it's all well and good being 6'6" and having really long arms, but if you lunge, then you just, you lose out. And I feel like, he's 315 pounds. It's not awful. I feel like he could add a bit more weight on, especially as he's 6'6". I think that's something that could happen. Now, when I had done this, and I'd gone through these guys, I had him as a top 50 pick.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't I was a little bit like, he's another one that could sneak in at the back of the first round, but really I think he's an early second round guy. Since then, he's done the combine, and you look at some of these things, he's like 96th percentile on the 40, 96th percentile on the vertical, 97th percentile on the broad jump. His hands are 81 percentile, which is quite high. I mean, the one we were talking about, that Max, who we spoke about Ian actually spoke in the last one. His hands was like 9%, sort of thing. So, we've got some really impressive figures here. And because of that, he has jumped up draft boards or mock draft boards ridiculously. And we're now getting people who are
the first tackle off the board in some high profile people's.
Yeah. I don't see it for me personally. I don't see it from the tape. I think there are better O-line guys for teams to be picking. That doesn't mean that he's not good. I just think of him as a top 50 pick. He reminds me a bit of Colton Miller. That's the one he reminds me of, which he was a bit of a sort of smaller weight-wise and kind of had that sort of good footwork. Yeah. I don't see that. I think he's been overhyped now, to be honest.
Yeah, it's the combine hype from it, isn't
Yeah.
it? I mean, he really showed it. I've got him at 6'7". So at 6'7", 315 pounds, he really showed how good of an athlete he is. I think often at times, if you watch games, he does look like a large tight end on the end of the line sometimes, and that's testament to him. But he has got rare movement for his size, but he's not great at run blocking overly, and his balance sometimes. For me, if you watch the Tennessee game, sometimes he's got some guys get around him or push him around or whatever. Then that he can. His balance isn't always there, and one thing led to another. There was a strip sack. That was one of his sacks that's listed on there. So I have seen areas where he's been beat. But I do think, as we've said, because there's such a small sample size of him being a starter, that you can get more out of this guy. I do think you can get more out of him. And I've got exactly the same thing down as you. I've got developmental prospect, could be a long-term left tackle. For me, developmental could be long-term is not enough for me to go, you're the number one tackle in the draft. Yes, I understand he's potentially one of two guys on this list that can play left tackle, and it's such a premium position. So that might boost him up a little bit. But I do think the talent of the people ahead of him on this list is a lot further along than where he's at in his game currently.
Do you have him as a first round guy?
I could, on my first mock draft that we did, as you're getting towards the back end of the draft at the 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, that area, I was saying I can see another tackle going in this area. I had Jennings Dunker, I think, on my first one. So around that area, I could see him going because the fact that he is a left tackle, and there's a lot of these guys that we're talking about later, we're saying he might be moving inside to guard. He might be moving inside to guard. So around that area, I can see why NFL teams might be taking him at the back end of the first, because they want a left tackle and they want someone who's 100% going to play left tackle. So I can see that. But I do think that if I was picking, I think there's better talent to be had with some of the other names. But yes, I can see him sneaking into the bottom half of the first round.
Okay.
Long way around that. Surely, yeah, that's where he's at. I mean, if you've got him at the start,
I've got him as a top 50. So like I said, I can see him sneaking into it. I personally think he's a early day 2. Is where I would have him early round 2. That's where I would have him. But I wouldn't be coming out going, oh my God, I can't believe they picked him in the 30th spot. Whoever's around there, it wouldn't shock me. But I'm just saying, it's like, for me, I don't have him as a definite first rounder, which I feel like a lot of people now have him as a definite first rounder. And actually, I feel like a lot of people have him as a definite top half of the first round as well. Yeah,
definitely. Well, a name that I've just mentioned will be coming in at number 6, and that is Jennings Dunker from Iowa Hawkeyes, 22 years old, 6'5", 319 pounds, lad, 10 pressures, 2 sacks on 588 passing snaps. He's former track athlete. He's a former wrestler. You're going to love that, Adam. You love a wrestler that plays on the O-line. He was part of that Iowa 2024 team. That their team average 197 rushing yards per game. We talked about Caleb Johnson and the fact that there was holes all over the place for him to run through. He was part of that team. He was right tackle, first team All Big Ten. He was the Iowa O-line won the Joe Moore Award for the Nationals Best Unit, and he is the anchor of that unit. He has played reps. He did reps, especially at the Senior Bowl, Adam, at tackle, guard, and center. So maybe this guy is your Graham Barton.
Yeah. As you were talking, I was a little bit like, I think this is my Graham Barton, isn't it?
So you love Graham Barton. Do you love this guy as much? Because he's dropped down boards. I'm still really high on this guy.
Yeah, I really like him. I think he did, like the tape from what I saw, I thought was great. I mean, he's got some serious leg drive. His upper body bends really, really nicely. You know, he has that movement. He doesn't have the most explosive first step, but he kind of just he has that, although he misses out on that first step, the drive afterwards, it does kick in pretty quickly and it really does make a difference. I think his hands are really, really good hand placement, really good grip strength as well. I think he steers his blocks very well. That's something that's another one that you want. Um, got a decent motor, angry player, you know, strong anchor, like I said, like the footwork. 4-year starter. I think that's huge. That really is huge. Um, I do think he leans a little bit like some others. He overextends at times, but he's an experienced O-line guy who's a decent weight, decent height, nice sort of like nice amount of experience about him. Cracking Tash. I mean, that's a brilliant thing he's got going on there. Yeah, yeah, he's doing that well. And yeah, he has the ability, as you say, to play anywhere. I think, see, to me, I had him as a first round pick. As you said, it's towards the back of the first round, but I've got him as a first round pick, and I'd much rather be banking on him than I would be on someone like Monroe Freeling. Yeah, I think he's got everything going for him. So yeah, I really liked him, and like you say, he's got it on tape. He's shown it, and he's shown that he can do it. And you know, a 4-year starter is not to be sniffed at all.
No, and he's a Big Ten, like all team Big Ten, and Big Ten. You know, you're going up against the likes of Ohio State, Michigan, you know, Oregon, like all teams, Penn State, that have all been in the national championship runs over this time period, and they've really shut down people in games. You know, you rarely ever see him get pushed back. He's got great grip strength. He's steering defenders. I find it hard to. I understand that maybe they want to move him. I think predominantly a run blocking team in the NFL is probably going to fall in love with him. So if the likes of the Ravens or the Eagles or someone like that, I can see them falling in love with him. He might be more desirable for a run first team, so someone who's looking for a run blocker. But still, that has its place. That's where people struggle on O-line. So, yeah, definitely. When he was at the combine, he was asked what's something that, you know, is underrated that we might not know. And he talked about his IQ. Obviously, he's got the big ginger mullet and tash, and people think he's a meathead. But he said, I've got a really high football IQ, my understanding of the game, reading the game. People don't expect that from me. And he did actually have a lot of academical awards from college as well. So I think that's something that you should take away on the O-line, someone who's really smart, can read the game. So I think he's got a really high floor. I've got him down as a really high floor player. And as I said, took reps at the combine, had a good at the Senior Bowl, and he did them at tackle, guard, and center.
Yeah, I think you have to have a high IQ in order to be able to play in all of the positions on the O-line. You have to be able to do that. And look, I mean, a lot of people will look at his stats from the combine and they won't be overly impressed by them. But a lot of them, they're decent, they're steady, they're and that's kind of what we're saying, isn't it? It's like, you know, he's a decent, steady, good floor kind of O-line guy. And, you know, if he ends up in the right place, he could be very, very good and do well. So yeah, I like him. I think he's got a really good chance of doing something. Not sure about the hair and moustache choices, but you know, I can't fault the guy completely. So.
In at number 5 is Caleb Lomu from the Utah Utes, 21 years old, 313 pounds, 8 pressure, 0 sacks on 382 passing snaps, all team Big 12. He again is the next person we're going to talk about. I think that's probably definitely a left tackle going into this draft class, played at left tackle for these guys. Another guy who might talk about playing right tackle. Adam, lot to like about this guy. My personal opinion on this guy before we get into it was I think he should have returned. He's got a little edgeability left. I think he should have returned back to college and had another year, put a bit more meat on, and had another year of experience and being the guy at Utah. What's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. So when I went through it, and you go through the sort of like some of the weaknesses of him, needs to get stronger was the first one. Run game is really developmental, really not great in that, and needs time. They were kind of the three main points. Look, he needs to finish his blocks a bit better, and sometimes he can get caught leaning, but they're sort of things that can be coached up. But yeah, I think he just needs to get a little bit bigger, have a bit more time about him, and I think that will help him. So, I mean, like you say, another year in college might not have been the worst thing in the world. The good things about him, I think he's got a really good explosive first step. He consistently beats defensive ends with that. Strong hands, nice placement on the tape. Didn't do so well at the combine with his hands, but I felt like he did all right with it. He's on tape, he's decent. He covers the ground really, really quickly. Got great footwork. And, I mean, when I say he needs to get stronger as a negative, he's only 21. He could easily get bigger. So again, it's another sort of like developmental guy where I think he does have a lot of positives about him, and there is a lot that he can do. I like his agility. I think is something that's really good, and I still think he could put on a bit of weight and he would still have that. So I don't think he'd lose it. But yeah, this is kind of the guy where I'm a little bit like, yeah, you're probably right. He probably could have done with another year in college. He could have got, who knows what would have happened in that year. Another year of starting, in theory, he would have improved. He could have got bigger, could have got stronger, and I think that would have helped him quite a lot. I kind of look at him a little bit like Freeling in respect of sort of like the height and the weight and just kind of how they are. But yeah, I feel that there's a few developmental guys in here, and I'm not sure that Lomu's the one that I would pick first out of them.
I think he's a little less developmental. I think he needs to develop in run blocking. I think he needs to add a bit of
I mean, that's fair, but I also think he needs to develop inside, like just generally his body as well.
If you take it as a left tackle, when you talk about that O-line that had Spencer Fano and Caleb Lomu on it, if you're a defensive unit, you were probably attacking Caleb Lomu side of the O-line over Fano's. So he probably had to face the best pass rusher of everybody's team. And he came away with a pass rush win rate of 97%. Long-limbed, good technician, good movement, keeps players engaged. If you're looking for someone to do that on the edge, I think he really showed up where he was facing the best because they didn't want to go up against Fanu on the other side. So I think he's really good at that. So he's above Freeling for me in that section of the game. As I said, he just needs to, which he has improved slightly on the run blocking, but I think he needed another year to improve it a bit more and be the guy. So I think he's further along than Freeling is in terms of being a left tackle. Just needs that bit more mass to improve his run blocking game.
Yeah, I think it's a shame that he didn't go back for another year. I think he could have, I mean, you don't know 100%, but you kind of get the feeling that he could have been like a real top pick in next year's draft, or like one of the top O-line guys anyway. Whereas for this one, I feel like it's another one where we're talking at the back end of the first again.
Yeah, he's in that area for me, sort of that Pittsburgh Steelers, Eagles, 49ers, that section of the draft. I think that's where he's probably going to go. In at number 4, we have Vega Ioane from the Penn State Nittany Lions, 21 years old, 6'4", 320 pounds, allowed 4 pressures, 0 sacks on 613 passing snaps, all team Big Ten, all American. I've got a lot of great things to say about this guy. I absolutely love him. So, Adam, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't much to dislike, to be honest. I mean, he's a really good frame and size. I really like that. Great against pass protection. He does that incredibly well. I think he sets his anchoring very well. His hands are decent, placement and good strength. I think he does really well with that. Love the fact that he can read the game very well. I think that's something that's good. So he's got decent high IQ. I think he creates leverage, which actually some of the other guys not necessarily so well, but I think this guy really does create leverage with his hip movement. He's got that ability to bend his body and really sort of like push through, which, is largely because he's got this really good anchor that is set really well. Discipline is decent. He's not someone who really commits many fouls. So yeah, he's got lots and lots of good things going for him. He had a decent time of it in Penn State. The run blocking needs to improve. It's not awful, but it does need to improve. His lateral quickness is a little bit slow compared to some of these other guys, but he is a bit bigger than these other guys. So and also I think when we chuck them all in together in a show like this, it is difficult to, he is a guard. It's going to be tough for him to have the same lateral quickness as someone that's going to play tackle. So you've got to kind of have that in mind. I think his pad levels, sometimes they get a little bit high, but yeah, there's not much that's wrong with this guy. And in the same way as Pregnon, I think, he is a guard. I don't really see him doing anything else. But he's a very good guard, and if that's what you're looking for, and you're happy to take that on and not have the flexibility, then he's definitely someone that you want to get on your team.
Yeah, I put down that he's an elite pass blocker. So if you've got elite in your title, you're a first round pick for me. If you're good at
he's definitely first round.
He's absolutely stonewalling guys. You talked about his anchor and his body control and his hands, his grip strength. He just absorbs any contact that hits him, and he never, ever, ever, ever gets pushed back. I watched Ohio State play Penn State, being an Ohio State fan, and even Caden McDonald's was the closest person I ever saw to pushing him back, and he didn't really push him back, and that's him giving him his full bulldog at him, and he couldn't even push him back. Not only did he allow 0 sacks, he also allowed 0 hits as well. So it's just he's easily the best pure guard in this draft, and what I really liked about him, because he's so strong and he has that ability, I really liked his patience. We've talked about some of these other guys prior to him saying they lean and lunge. Well, he doesn't, because he's patient with it, and he knows how strong. He doesn't do either of them. I think that's why he's ahead of all the other guys for me. And if he's there at 22 and he's not, the Chargers don't call his name, I think there's a possibility he's gone before 22. But if not, he's 100% going to the Chargers for me. I think he fits everything they want.
Yeah, he's very, like you say, when you say about the fact that he literally just absorbs the contact, he's very dense, isn't he? He just sort of like he plays bigger than what he is, sort of thing. It's like you look at, because when you look at some of these other guys, there's not, 5 pounds and all that. It's not the largest amount of weight difference, but this guy, it just feels like he's got about an extra 15, 20 pounds on some of these other guys. And I remember looking at it, when you look at the tape and you go, my God, this guy's he must be huge. And then you look at what they put him down at, and you sort of think, oh, he's just he's just dense. He's got that sort of build about him. So yeah, like you say, I mean, I like Pregnon. I think that he's going to be good. But this guy is easily the best sort of like specific guard position in this year's draft. And like you say, I mean, if he's still there at 22, obviously the Chargers will love him. But I don't know if he'll make it to that.
No, I think he might be gone before then. I think there's a lot of people going to be fighting over him if he's available. In at number 3 is Caden Proctor from Alabama Crimson Tide, 20 years old, 6'7", 352 pounds, allowed 22 pressures, 2 sacks on 610 passing snaps. He's an all-time American, 2-time All-SEC. He made the Feldman's Freak List. He's a former 5-star recruit, played basketball and shot put. I was really high on this guy coming into the season. I think my preseason rankings, I had him as my tackle 1, and I thought he would, prior to the season, he was going to be the first tackle called off the board in this year's draft. Alabama didn't have the greatest of seasons, but that wasn't his fault. Adam, I love this guy. I think he's got great potential. With your laughing, are you not as high on him as I am? Is it an Evan Neal for you?
Look, if you're going to ask my opinion, you've got to wait until I give you the comp of Evan Neal.
Oh, really?
Right?
Oh,
yeah. So look, firstly, great anchor, dominates against the run, really, really good against the run. I think he's from what I've seen, real sort of like nasty type of finisher who just really pushes through defenders. Like his hands, I think he's got really good, strong hands. Hand placement isn't necessarily quite as good, but I do think that his hands are really strong. He's only 20 at the moment, so there is loads of potential with this guy. So I don't want to like completely be like he's not gonna make it and he's Evan Neal. It's not. That's not fair. But he does have some Evan Neal parts about him. His footwork, it's not great, and his lateral movement is a bit of an issue. He's much bigger than a lot of these other guys that we're talking about, so that's why his pad level rises throughout games. I noticed that, and I was a little bit like, that's not great, but he is 6'7", so what do you expect? I think he'll be a guard. I really do. I don't. I think they should give him the opportunity at tackle wherever he ends up. I think he deserves that chance, but I just think his size, he's going to end up being a guard. I'm just not sure. There's some things where I'm just a little bit like, I think he's just too big. To be brutally honest, I think that's a problem. I think that he's hot. I mean, 6'7" isn't necessarily like too bad, but 352 pounds, that's a hell of a lot of weight, and I think it just kind of firstly it brings up potential conditioning issues, but in the NFL, but also I think it just, when you're that big and you're that tall, if you're not 100% right with your arms and your hand placement, you just lose all that sort of leverage. It just goes, and I just worry for him that that's what's going to happen, because I mean, it wasn't that long ago, just recently, we were talking about Caleb Lomo, and he's 6'6". Well, Caden Proctor's 6'7". It's not that much difference, but you're talking about nearly 40 pounds more on this guy, and I think there's potential worries. And you liked Evan Neal when he came out, and we know what's happened. With that. So that sometimes when these guys are really big, it becomes a problem, and I do worry about this guy.
Yeah, it's just hard to get past when you're talking about what makes a good left tackle, and you talk about things. He's got great length and he's got good movement for his size, and he's played all 15 games at left tackle in the SEC, which is a great, playing against high level defenders. He's a nasty run blocker. His pass rush win rate was 97%. I put elite anchor for him. I said, if you've got elite in your title and something you do, then that's good. And impressively at the combine, his vertical was better than some of the wide receivers, which is mental at his size. So
you're telling me an awful lot of things that Evan knew as well.
It's hard to get past, like, that. He's been great at college. I understand why he was a 5-star recruit. So there's no reason why it shouldn't work. That's what I don't get. Like, there's no reason why it shouldn't work for him. But I understand your hesitance with him. But I can't lob him in with the same.
He's definitely a first-round pick. Someone will love him. They will look at his size and they will go, "We want this. He's an absolute monster." That's exactly what we want. It doesn't always work. Yeah,
it's a possibility it won't. But we've said that some of these are developmental. So let's lob him in with that category that he can develop at the next level. In at number 2, someone that we've already spoke about before, it's Spencer Fano from the Utah Utes, the second guy from the Utah Utes, 21 years old, 6'6", 311 pounds, pressures 5, sacks 0 on 382 passing snaps. He was a straight off the bat starter, started his full year as a freshman and then every year after. He's also, before Lomu played, he played left tackle. So he's played left tackle and right tackle before people say he's a pure right tackle and that's it. Team captain as well for the Utes. Adam, this guy looks the real deal. A lot of people saying he's a guard, but a lot to like about him.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like the tape of him. I thought he was decent. His lateral agility is really good. I think his body control is solid, and you can tell that he's an athlete. He's got that about him, and that he's capable with his explosive first step. His combine, he did really well at the combine with like the athlete in him. He had a really good 40 vertical cone, 3 cone. Even his broad was decent. His hands, it's funny, his tape, I think the tape showed that he's got good hand placement. Sometimes the strength, it kind of goes missing a little bit, but I think his anchor's decent, and he's quite an intense player. That seemed what came across. It's like he's really up for it, good communicator, and I think he's got like, he comes across to me when I watch him. He just seems like a really smooth player who just sort of like, he doesn't necessarily do any fancy tricks or anything, but he's good at what he does. He's smooth. He's got position versatility. I think he could play in a lot of different places actually. So I don't think he's got a problem with that. And I really liked a lot of what I saw. Sometimes his pad level rises a little bit. Sometimes he leans a little bit. You see that with a lot of these guys. So it's not really much of an issue in my eyes. I think you can sort that out. I saw him against Texas Tech. He did struggle a little bit against David Bailey and Romello Height. But, 2 edge rushers that we're talking about are going to do quite well. You're going to have me as a Texas Tech fan by the end of this. No, I just happened to see the tape. That was all it was. What do you feel about the arms?
Oh, that's a question I had on my list for you. Is
okay.
A problem?
How do we both feel about the arms?
Well, look, there's going to be this big issue that Will Campbell didn't have a great playoffs. And he definitely didn't have a very good Super Bowl, but he was solid all through the year. And I feel like he played through the playoffs and the Super Bowl injured. I don't think he was fully fit during that. He had the injury in the season. I don't think he was fit. And I think people are just going, it's small arms. So I'm going to go with arm length is not enough of a problem if someone's good at it they can't be a right or left tackle unless they're like got little tiny T-Rex arms. So until he gets to the NFL and shows me that his arms are a problem, they're not a problem for me, because he's done it at college and the tape shows that he can do it.
So they are shorter than Will Campbell's. However, he does have a much wider wingspan than Will Campbell. So I think that's meaningful, and that's something that will tell you a lot. So I kind of agree. I'm not overly worried about the fact that he has shorter arms, but it is something that a lot of people are throwing at him because, you know, he can't make his arms any longer. So so there is that. But he's got a lot going about him. Like I say, I think he has position versatility. He can play left, he can play right tackle. I think he can play guard as well. It wouldn't shock me if he ends up being pushed in at some point. He will start as a tackle, I'm sure he will. But he's got a lot going for him, and I think he probably will be a top 10 pick. I think he's got the talent for it.
I would see him in the top 10. I think arm length might drop him out of it because of
it's quite. It'll be close, but I think he's got the talent to be top 10.
I used a word for this guy that I don't use for linemen. I put explosive out of stance and then followed it up with shot out of a cannon. Now, usually we save that comment for sort of the edge rushers or wide receivers or something like that. But I've used it for an O-lineman. And I do really think that, you know, if you watch him play, he's fast and powerful and explosive about his stance. And I had to use that comment for him. I think for me, he needs to clean his penalties up a little bit. But other than that, really liked him. Think he's got a lot of potential, as you say, play right tackle, left tackle. There's a lot of teams that will be looking for someone who's got that versatility that can play both. And if he does move to guard, then someone's going to have an absolutely fantastic guard. Yeah. So win-win. So in at number one, it's going to be no surprise to anyone. We have Francis Mauigoa from Miami Hurricanes, 20 years old, 6'6", 329 pounds. Allowed 15 pressures, 2 sacks on 522 passing snaps. Was first team ACC and All-American. Also won the ACC Jacobs Blocking Trophy Award. Made the Feldman's freak list, despite the fact he doesn't look like the freak that we have in Caden Proctor. Lots to love about this guy, but we've got him in as the number one guy, but there's still a lot of people saying there's a possibility he might move to guard as well.
I wasn't going to start with it, but the end of the notes, it does say guard ? So yeah, I kind of agree. I think he's a great build, got a brilliant anchor. He doesn't get pulled back at all. This is what I want to see from my O-line guy. He's about 25 pounds less than Caden Proctor, and I think that's kind of my issue with Proctor. But he's got really strong hands, stuns defenders really quickly straight away. It's like as soon as they contact him, it's like bang, you're hitting a brick wall. I think he's got really good movement as well. I think his footwork is decent. His balance is good. Solid against the run, really good against the pass. Technically, I think he's improved quite a lot over the seasons that he's played, and just generally looks like the all-round guy that you want. He didn't have a particularly great 40 time when he did it at the combine. I don't care. It doesn't really matter that much because that's not his game. There's a few issues. Sometimes the hand placement wanders. Sometimes the pads creep up. Sometimes you can watch his sort of like when his lateral quickness, it's not elite, but it's still pretty good for a guy of his size. There's very few issues. I mean, things like pads and hand placement, it's just reps and it's just play coaching, and that will improve. He reminded me of Fawonga That was the one. I know it kind of feels like a bit of a lazy choice because of who he is, but it kind of did. It reminded me of Fuanga. And he's the number one O-line guy for me by quite a long way, personally. And I find it mental that people are coming out and saying that Monroe Freeling is anywhere close to this guy. I think he will get his chance at tackle.
I think he is a tackle. I'm not having it.
God,
I think he is
question mark.
I think he's a tackle. He's also another one of these guys. He's never missed a game. So, you know, the durability's there. They had a really fantastic run to the national championship, which he was a big part of. Great leverage, quick hands, nimble feet, great at mirroring, solid anchor. And I put down, if you watch the tape as well, he makes everything look easy. And I think that's a difficult thing to do at tackle. So, yeah, loads to love about him. I think, for me, I had him down as sort of a top 5 pick. I thought he could go within that realm. I thought he could be top 5. He's moved out of the top 5 for a lot of people because I believe, as we said at the start of the show, people think he might be a guard, and because he's not a tackle, then he's not worth a top 5 pick. Do you think he's got top 5 ability? Do you think a Cardinals or a Titans, or maybe, you know, or sort of maybe 6 at the Browns? Do you think that's where he should be going?
I think he should be going number 5.
Well, there's a strong possibility that he could. I think there's a strong possibility that the Giants go.
I think he would be very good for your Giants. I think that would be good.
I would have said fact he's going there if we hadn't brought back Illuminor. I would have been like, that's what we're getting. So
yeah, I mean that's true, and that does kind of obviously sort of make you feel like he might not, but I think he'd be very good for your Giants. I'm trying to remember it. It's obviously the Raiders 1, Jets 2.
Well, I don't think he's going to go to the Jets. I think they need.
I don't see the Jets taking him.
You've got Cardinals at 3, Titans at 4, Giants 5, Browns 6, and I think that you could argue all of them need the help.
Yeah, I mean, Browns make a lot of sense. Titans, you could say, make a lot of sense. Yeah, Jets, no. Cardinals need help everywhere. Yeah, it wouldn't be the worst idea in the world. Yeah, I think he's got the talent for it to be top 5. Like you say, he might end up getting knocked down just purely because he's not really like 100% definitely a tackle. Like you say, I think there's a lot of people that feel like he's going to end up being a guard. Unfortunately, I think he could end up being a guard. But I do feel he's got the best chance of being a tackle out of all of them. Yep.
Well, that's the top 10, Adam. Have you got any honourable mentions or anyone you wanted to talk about
I have one, because I'm sorry, it's so ridiculous. And it happens to be his mate as well. Markel Bell. Have you seen the size of this man? He's 6.
What is he? Is he nearly 7 foot? Is he?
He's 6'9".
Yeah.
346 pounds. He's got 36.5-inch arms. His arms are about the same as height as you. It's ridiculous how big this guy is. Absolute freak of nature. Again, he has got Evan Neal written all over him.
Well, he's bigger than Evan Neal, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's got Evan Neal written all over him, I'm afraid. Yeah, the reason I want to bring him up, he is just huge. It's ridiculous. Some stuff on him, just freakish dimensions, amazing. His grip strength is great. He does keep improving, in fairness. He is quite young. and he gave up 0 sacks allowed on 558 pass blocking snaps in 2025, which is a bit mental. Run blocking, he is a complete liability. Foot speed is limited, and let's just say his frame will create a few leverage issues, I would have thought. But yeah, you never know. I feel like he's got effort nil written all over him, though. Too big. Some of these guys it's ridiculous how big some of these people are.
I've got another big guy in terms of height wise. His weight's a little bit better. I think he's probably due to his injury. I think he's going to slide down a lot of boards. So I think someone might get him as a steal. I said last year that Justin Simmons was the steal because of his injury, and he's been incredible. He's maybe not up to that level, but I think Isaiah Word from Oregon, without the injury, is a really, really good steal. I think he's going to go a lot later. And I think my day 2 guy, my round 2 guy that I like after all the big names have gone is Blake Miller. Quite like him out of Clemson. Started a lot at tackle as well. So I think he's, unlike some of the others that maybe have moved around a bit, I think he's got like that ability. So really, really liked his play as well.
Yeah, on a serious note, I think Blake Miller, as you say, I think will do well. Caleb Tiernan out of Northwestern, I think has got a good chance of being a decent sort of like a day 2 guy who will do well as well. There's a few guys here who look pretty good, and I think there's going to be a lot of O-line guys go. There always is, isn't there? Every year, there's always a lot of O-line guys go. And I think that we're going to see a decent chunk in the top 50 this year of guys. It wouldn't shock me if you ended up with about 8 or 9 of them in the top 50 that go. So yeah, decent class.
Yeah, well, that's all for the offensive linemen. We have now only got tight ends to go, and we will have completed the offensive side of the ball. Then we'll be moving on to the defensive side of the ball. Really looking forward to the edge rushers. Lots to talk about there. So watch out for that in the next coming weeks. But till then, keep it with the franchise tag and see you again very soon.